Did you know that there are a total of 195 flavors of haichus? Now, I know that there's more than what the US provides, but let me just say that when I heard this information or when I read this information at 4 a.m., my small American brain could not comprehend that there is more flavors to be made than the ones that are readily available to us. You know, the 21, 22 flavors. Yeah, I like just couldn't comprehend. I was like sitting there like, what? Like there's like fucking cheesecake flavored haichus? Like that doesn't make any sense, because I think haichus fruity flavors, right? Well, let me just say, the morning I woke up and I decided to look at that shit again, I was humbled, deeply humbled and embarrassed because it wasn't just 195 flavors. It was 195 flavors total globally. So, yeah, I am embarrassed, I am humbled, and of course, like, just, it makes sense. There's so many other opportunities literally anywhere. There's so many different fruits. There's like durian, there's lychee. I don't know how you say that. There's guayabas. I want a guayaba flavored one. There's plantains. Yeah, the world is an oyster. There's just so many opportunities, and yet I neglected that entirely. So, what the fuck does that have to do with crime? Candy, crime, can there be a connection? Well, I'm here to tell you that yes, there is a connection, and we are actually taking a look at one of Japan's most infamous mysteries that has yet to be solved to this day. We are talking about the monster with 21 faces, aka the Glico Morinaga incident. I'm your host, Alex, and you are listening to the third episode of Crime Genes. Now, before we begin, I would like to say that the information that I am about to cover may not be entirely accurate to what the Japanese reports state word for word. If anything, we are essentially taking a look at an extended interpretation about the events that transpired. In other words, there are going to be a lot of holes in this story, and I am going to point them out because I myself have a lot of questions, especially when it comes to the context of the entirety of this case, especially when we are looking at the theories. So I just wanted to let you know before we really get into this. With that said, we are talking about extortion, a little bit of blackmail, some undercover, double-sided type of situations, cyanide poisoning. So naturally, listener discretion is advised. I want you to take a moment and picture this. Follow what I'm saying, all right? You're the head of one of the most successful Japanese candy manufacturers, all right? Everybody knows you, everybody respects you, and absolutely everyone knows that you're like el jefe, all right? You're el patron, the head honcho, right? You walk in the room, everybody bows, everyone looks at you with admiration, respect, maybe a little fear. I don't know. I'll leave that up to your fanfic, all right? Pero what I do want to emphasize is that you got your life together, all right? You're making good money, you can afford to take a break, take a vacation, pay your debts, your family's debts, pay for illness. That kind of sounds fucked up. Let me backtrack. You can pay for medical bills, all right? Maybe you can afford to send your kids to college, overseas. I don't know. You can judge it up as much as you want. But you're successful, You are that bitch, as some would say. You are the girl boss of the century, all right? And naturally, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. There's ups, there's downs, and you know what they say. More money, more problems, right? Well, let's just say that's the case. You're stressed. Maybe it's family issues, marital issues. Maybe the company, there's some layoffs coming up in the spring, the summer, whatever what you want to, I don't know. That's up to you. Maybe there's a lawsuit on your hands, Maybe you have some disgruntled employees that are coming after you, spreading rumors, all that good stuff. All right? So you're stressed, and most people when they're stressed, they turn to sex, drugs, alcohol, marathons, apparently, shopping, those are all really good vices. They're choices. I'm not going to say if they're good or bad choices, but they're choices nonetheless. But let's say that you want to go to your Osaka house and just chill. Take a nice relaxing bath, all right? No one's going to fault you for that. It's probably the most inexpensive of all of the choices that I listed, And let's say you do that, all right? You come home ready to take a bath, right? Maybe you set the lighting, maybe you dim the lights, maybe you light a candle, maybe put on some music. I would do Amy Winehouse, but that's just me. Maybe put some Epsom salt, some essential oil in the bath, a bath bomb. I don't know. Maybe you're putting on some aromas, all that good stuff, right? You have it all set, right? So you put your toe in, you dip your toe, your foot. You're like, all right, the temp's good. So then you submerge yourself, and instantly you get that little sting, of the warm water, but then it kind of dies down. And then you submerge yourself, and you're sitting there letting your mind wander. You're unwinding, letting your body relax, your muscles relax, and then you close your eyes, right? That's the best part, when you get to just close your eyes, disassociate a little bit, and just relax, Perfect. Absolute bliss. Well, let me tell you, you're about to get kidnapped, by two dudes who have some weapons on them. They're hooded, you can't see them, and all of a sudden, they're dragging your ass butt naked, and you get kidnapped, all right? And let me just say, terrible way to relax, no? Well, let me just say, this actually did happen to someone, and his name is Katsushika Izaki, the head of the Japanese candy manufacturer Izaki Glico. I don't know about you, but I personally have thought about this scenario before, because that's just how my mind works, all right? I'll be thinking like, oh my God, what if a home invasion happens and I'm just here showering? What am I going to do? What do I have available? How fast can I put my clothes on, What if there's an earthquake, What if there's a shooting outside? What am I going to do? Am I prepared? Mentally prepared? Physically prepared? That's just the norm for me, though. It's not just, extended to the shower. This is just my general thoughts in life, in every situation. So yeah, maybe that's not you, and that's completely fine. I'm just sharing a little tidbit of information about me and how I work. But Mr. Izaki Glico was not expecting this. All right. He was genuinely shook. He was surprised. And I mean, I think anybody would really, like, even if you prepare yourself, like me, you're mentally preparing yourself. Maybe you run a simulation, if you're that, what's the word? Committed. And yeah, I don't think there's any scenario that could probably like properly prepare you for the exact outcome of this spontaneous thing that occurs. And let me just say, like, he was scared, and I think all of us would be. It's not something you would expect. It's not something you can, like I said, properly prepare for. So, of course, Mr. Izaki was no exception. So, the following day, a ransom note came through demanding that Izaki's company, Glico, hand over 1 billion yen, which is approximately over 7 million US dollars, and 100 kilograms of gold to be dropped off at a specific phone booth. Now, here's the thing. When this ransom was put through, obviously they had Izaki, and Izaki was meant to be, the point of exchange, life for money. It's pretty typical stuff. There's nothing truly super, I don't want to say alarming, the whole thing's alarming, but it's following a script, so to speak, and I don't know about you, but personally, when I think of rich people getting kidnapped, I typically think of one of two scenarios. The first one being for money, what's it called, ransom, or just something personal, vengeance and all that good stuff. So of course, in this particular situation, it is the former. Now, approximately 2 days after he was kidnapped and 2 days after the ransom note came through, he actually escaped. Mr. Izaki was able to escape his kidnappers. Now, the details of how this occurred are a little bit sensationalized because there is no one really within this time frame that can confirm exactly how this went down except for Mr. Izaki himself. So again, they're kind of dramatized a little bit. We're not 100% sure, but I'm still going to share that with you. You make whatever you want of it, all right? So, before dawn, a bound Izaki breaks free from his ropes. How? We don't know, but he just does, all right? And as soon as he breaks free from his ropes, he gets up and he's looking around, We're not sure if he was like blinded or he had like a sack over his head or anything like that. We don't know any of those details, but he gets up, he looks around the room, sees that there is a door, he charges towards the door, he tries to open it, it's locked, so then he breaks down the door. How he breaks down the door, I'm not sure, but he manages to do so, and he books it. And as soon as he's running away, he realizes that he was actually being kept in an isolated warehouse, and of course he keeps running, until he runs into two railroad employees who are able to contact the police. Now, if you're anything like me, you're probably wondering at this point, like, was he still naked? Because that was such a pivotal point, in the story that he was naked. And the answer is no. Whoever kidnapped him actually managed to put clothes on him at some point. We're not sure at what point, what day, what hour, but they put clothes on him. Whether that was for his benefit or their benefit is still unclear, or if they just had a good heart, or what's another reason they would do that? Maybe it's like a SpongeBob thing, like my eyes, bald, bald. Maybe it's one of those. I don't know. And truly, we won't know ever. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that just in case anybody was confused about that. Obviously, at this point, the police are involved. So, when Izaki is essentially within the, what is it called? Why was he going to say capacity? That's not correct. Let's just say he got in contact with the police, all right? So when he got in contact with the police, he was basically able to lead them to where he was being held, but he wasn't able to provide any details about who had kidnapped him, much less the circumstances of why, other than the ransom note, of course. But basically, they had nothing, no leads, nothing to really fill in the blanks about his kidnapping, other than the fact that he had escaped and that he was kidnapped a certain time and that they wanted money for him. So there's really nothing that they can really go off of. So in a way, it's kind of like a dead end, but the case isn't dropped any at all, I should say. I don't know why I was going to say any less. That does not make any sense. But yeah. However, usually, I shouldn't even say usually, but I think the critical thinking part of a lot of us is thinking, well, obviously the kidnapping of Izaki failed, so what's the likelihood of them kidnapping again if it's not a personal thing, if it's just a money thing, right? Maybe they'll just try something else, completely leave Izaki out of the equation. And I would say that's a pretty rational thought. And I just want to say that whatever rational thoughts you're currently having and trying to, figure this out, I'm just going to try to say this in the nicest way, but I would just leave that completely out, because there is not really a good rational way to look at this, because there are just so many different aspects to this. So shortly after this had occurred, the kidnapping, he escaped, police get involved. This entity, this group, these people that had kidnapped him didn't stop there. They tried again, except they took a very different approach. So, not long after this, they would go on to demand about $480,000, US dollars, I should say, and they were sending threats, to poison Glico candies with cyanide if they didn't receive the money, of course. Now, here's the thing. You can think at this point, before the candy and stuff, you can think maybe it's like a personal thing. Maybe they just want the money. They intend no harm. Obviously Izaki wasn't harmed. He was unscathed. Sure, he had a couple bruises, but one could argue that it was from breaking down the door, right? Still, not only are they now just going for the company, Izaki's completely left alone, despite that being his company, they're going after the company itself. They're still demanding money, but they changed how much money they wanted. So that's particularly interesting, don't you think? They kind of went down from 7 million something to 4,008. Oh my God, I'm butchering these numbers, but let's just say they took a lesser, approach. So that's interesting, is it not? And not only that, now they're saying that they want to poison candies, and think of it, who are the biggest consumers of candy? Children. So naturally there's a really big cause for concern, not just to the reputation of the company or damages or even just monetary loss. There's the public to consider now, so it's getting pretty serious. And in addition to this, several Glico headquarters were set on property. Their properties were set on fire. So there's this arson aspect to it, right? Yeah. It seems like it's escalating for sure at this point, but I just also want to point this out. It's not entirely rare, for stuff like this. Again, these aren't rare occurrences, but the fact they're kind of happening all together definitely brings out a lot of questions, I should say. And like I said earlier, there's going to be a lot of questions that won't be answered, unfortunately. So, something I want to point out is how the police are kind of handling this, because again, they don't have any leads thus far. So, again, I just want to add a little bit of perspective on this. And to start off, I just want to say that at this point in the 80s, the Japanese police are basically commended for being an effective unit, meaning they are very particular about the way they do their work. They're very vigilant, they're very effective, and they work together, and they're able to solve a lot of cases. Now, in 1983 alone, they actually solved 97.1% of murder cases and 55.3% of thefts, compared to the US's 73.5% of murders and 17.3% of thefts. Naturally, knowing this, the police are kind of like freaking out because they have a reputation to uphold. And not only that, they are being criticized by the newspapers. There's one in particular called Yomori. I think it's spelled Yomiuri. And they essentially ran an editorial saying, quote, "We do not recall a case in which criminals have made such fools of the police," end quote. So, yeah, they are catching some heat, despite them not really having a certain, lead. I think that just kind of makes it worse. Everybody thinks that they're lacking, but they really just don't have anything to go off of. And I guess you can definitely, if you really wanted to, look at how they're handling this case and just criticize that, you're more than welcome to, of course. But that's just kind of what's going on. So it's embarrassing. They're being humbled by everyone, and they're not feeling too hot about themselves, So just keep that in mind as we go through this. So this takes us to April 8th, 1984. The press would go on to receive one of the first of what would eventually be 100 letters sent by the assumed perpetrators over the next year and a half. The contents of the letter mainly contained taunts aimed at the police, going as far as deliberately even helping them. Quote, "To the stupid police, are you idiots? What are you doing with so many people? If you were pros, you would catch us. Because you guys have such a high handicap, we're going to give you some hints." End quote. So, yeah, if they were humbled before, they certainly are now, because that is a little embarrassing, if I do say so myself. But yes, this is some parts of the letters, but I think the interesting part is this. So, in addition to the taunts, they would actually go on to debunk a couple theories swirling around the department and just the press in general, such as the kidnapping being an inside job, or the owners of the warehouse where Izaki was being kept and escaped from, saying that they were involved somehow. And here's the thing. I don't know if this is stated in the articles or by the police in a way that implies that they had evidence that supports what they're claiming in the letters, or if the police kind of just took their word for it without evidence. So it's a little confusing, to say the least. And I think this is one of those details that's pretty important in the sense of, I don't even know, especially, I'm just going to try to say this before I spoil anything, but just, we're going to be looking at 3 different theories at the very end about what occurred, who was responsible. And I think this is one of those details that could have potentially aided in these theories. Now, is it the most important thing in the world? No, but it definitely would have added some context, some much needed context, if I do say so myself. Now, at this point, the letters are basically confirming that they are a group, that they are a united group of people. We don't know how many people are involved, but they do start referring to themselves as a group. So, at this point, there are a lot of critics, apart from the press, of course, and they are now trying to categorize these people, these perpetrators, this group, as Gekijo Hanzai, or crimes as I have it written as crimes as theater, but I'm pretty sure I meant as crimes of theater. Now, the letters often provided the authorities with random details, such as certain gates used to enter the factory, when they set it on fire, or the model of the typewriter they were writing on. So these are details, sure, they're important, they could make or break a case, but in this particular instance, they're kind of just details that don't really have an impact. They can't really track anyone at this point, because they don't have that physical evidence. Sure, they can go look at the gate they use, but that's all it is. It's a gate they use. DNA isn't super big at this point. So, and surveillance like cameras and stuff isn't really huge either. So much to the dismay of the police, there's no clues, no leads. By June 1984, the criminals had already began to refer to themselves as the monster with the 21 faces, which is a nod to a 1936 children's story by Japanese writer Edogawa Rampo titled The Mystery Man with the 20 Faces. So this story is about a thief, and the only way I can really describe this story or this thief is just simply stating that the thief is particularly known for his disguises, stating that he could quite literally be anyone. So, I'm going to read to you an excerpt from the story that seemed pretty interesting to not just the police, but also just to the rest of society. And I want you to keep in mind what happened with Glico. Quote, "Up until now, no matter how many police have been called up, they haven't been able to stop this dreadful gang. There is one particularly strange feature of this gang. When they have set their sights on one particular object or artifact without fail, they will send a letter of warning announcing their intentions, the date, place, and object of the planned crime. Even though they're criminals, perhaps they don't want to engage in an unfair battle, or perhaps they want to show that no matter how many precautions are taken, they can still commit the crime with their great skill." End quote. I think it's pretty obvious why this quote is particularly interesting to the police, I think it pertains very well to this group, and it says a lot about this group, their intentions, and also just kind of speaks for how they want to be perceived in media. So yeah, it's a lot. And it's interesting. It's definitely giving oh my god, what's the name of that one TV show? Okay, that's not important, but this takes us to September 1984, and we now know, Morinaga Haichus, and this is all about Morinaga and company, because this Japanese company started to receive extortion letters threatening them with unspecified actions if they did not receive $410,000 US dollars. And according to the police, Morinaga never actually sent any payments or had any intention to send the payments, so there wasn't really anything that happened necessarily until October 8th, when a Japanese newspaper received the following letter. Quote, "To moms throughout Japan, in autumn, when appetites are strong, sweets are really delicious. When you think sweets, no matter what you say, it's Morinaga. We've added some special flavor. The flavor of potassium cyanide. It is a little bitter. It won't cause It won't cause tooth decay, so buy the sweets for your kids. We've attached a notice on these bitter sweets that they contain poison. We've put 20 boxes in stores from Hakata to Tokyo." End quote. Now, extremely alarming, right? That shit is crazy. Your kids are gonna get attacked, and now your reputation is about to be attacked, and everyone's gonna be fucking suffering and up in arms, So, naturally, that very same day when that letter came out, packages of candy and various other snacks were found in grocery stores throughout Japan with labels, typed labels attached to them reading, "Danger, cyanide." Now, not all of the labeled packages were found to contain cyanide. At least one had enough to kill someone, but there wasn't enough of the cyanide candies to really do some really, really big damage. And they were labeled too. So, yeah, I think that's interesting, that they labeled them. I think it says a lot about their character, but at the same time doesn't say enough. And it's kind of scary at the same time with all the holes in the story. But, yeah. So, the letter warning of the tainted sweets, however, said that the next time there would be 30 boxes and that they would not be labeled. So, yeah, it's getting pretty serious, if it wasn't serious before, of course, but it's causing a lot of panic for moms, parents, authorities, press. Literally everyone's freaked out, and I think it's cause for concern for obvious reasons. And for the next 2 weekends, about 40,000 officers staked out grocery stores across the country. However, this resulted in nothing, appearing that the group did not go through with their latest threat. So, investigators, however, did find footage from October 7th showing a suspect with permed hair, glasses, and a baseball hat placing something on a shelf where the poison candy was later found. Unfortunately, the camera quality was pretty shitty and the security tapes had not been changed. Yikes, that was really bad. Had not been changed for over a year, meaning the quality of the image wasn't great. Images of this man known as Video no Otoko or Video Man were released to the public, but nobody really identified him, and if they did identify him, it was just another dead end. Not long after this, video footage of some of the phone calls attempting to extort money, which were purposely placed by the group, were released to the public. Now, much to everyone's shock, the voices on the tapes were actually of a woman and a child. That same child would go on to relay instructions about where to leave money, quote, behind the seat of the bus stop bench, end quote. While the phone recordings never resulted in any arrests, it did provoke the public to reconsider just who the monster with 21 faces could be. Now, I am a little confused about this information because there's no further details about if this woman and her child were found at any point, interviewed, if anybody identified them. Like, I just straight up don't know what came of this information. And it's video footage too, so that's like, I don't know, maybe it was blurry, maybe it was like really messy or messed up footage and they just couldn't identify anyone. Maybe they had their faces blurred. I can't vouch for anything, truly. Now, this takes us to March 1985, just 1 year after the first kidnapping. In total, there was 31 food and candy companies that had been harassed and again by that same entity, the monster with 21 faces, and Japan's authorities were still extremely dumbfounded by the case. They literally had so many dead ends, it's kind of comical at this point, and yet there were very few companies that were actually successfully extorted and pulled together the money that they demanded. So either there was a certain cut, they didn't fully pay it, they paid the full, never got bothered again. Again, I don't know those details, and I think they're really important, but it's okay. Anyway, the group would actually never show up to pick up the money. However, if these companies agreed to drop off money, because the police would actually be waiting for them. Now, allegedly, they weren't supposed to know that, except there was an instance where the group did instruct Glico representatives to wait for a phone call at a truck stop, and of course plainclothes policemen went instead, but no one ever came. The next letter after this event from the monster with 21 faces read, quote, so you guys thought you could fool us, dressed up in your nice businessmen blue suits, acting like salarymen, but we could tell immediately, those shifty eyes gave you away, end quote. So either they're really good at reading body language or someone told them. That's what that tells me. Now, no matter what the police came up with, like they came up with so many different plans, so many different strategies. In the end, it didn't pay off. It didn't matter because the monster with 21 faces seemed to be a step ahead, if not 10 steps ahead. And I just think that's kind of like, in a way, a clue in itself. And they did think this to be a clue. But the thing is that there was just like, how do you even begin to not only relay this information to your officers, because I would think oh shit, like maybe it's one of the officers, there's like a rat, but like how do you even like begin to investigate that, because you genuinely could not trust anyone at that point, So it's worth noting again that the group never really received any of the money because they were just like hesitant. They knew the police were coming. They just didn't really need the money. They just wanted drama, maybe. We don't really know. But yeah, they never got the money that they demanded at any point. So this takes us to August 12th, 1985, a year and a half after they first kidnapped Mr. Candyman from his bathtub. Now, the monster with 21 faces would send their last letter announcing that they would stop. But by this time, according to Japan's National Police Agency, authorities had received over 28,000 tips and had used over 130,000 police officers. So, what does this mean? It stops. It just completely stops. There is no monster with 21 faces after this. So, just to give a small recap, they didn't get any of the money they demanded. They did wreak a little havoc. They did have just maybe one, two, three pieces of candy that actually did contain enough cyanide to kill a person, or a child more specifically. And they had burned some properties. They had harassed 31 companies, and they were successful. In the end, they were successful. They were never caught. But the thing is, you can't really look at it as a completely successful story if you're looking at the monetary gain. There was no monetary gain. The only gain that they had was exposure, really. So it's a little confusing. Definitely, motive is clear because they stated it, but at the same time, like, they didn't really gain anything other than the attention. Maybe that was their end game. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted. But at the end of the day, the police were made fools. 100%. They were very humbled for almost 2 years. And with the reputation they had, I think it did do a little bit of damage, especially once it involved the public safety. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And now we're going to look at some theories about what the hell just happened. This first theory that we are looking at revolves around the idea that the monster with 21 faces is essentially an inside job, and that Karushisa Izaki was actually in on it from the start. And this theory primarily stems from the popular idea, or I should say disbelief, of Mr. Izaki being able to escape from his kidnappers. And this brings us back to when I was describing how he got out. And the thing is that there was no one to verify exactly how this occurred. There was no one around to really say that this was or wasn't true. And of course, this led to a lot of people being suspicious. But in addition to that, people also found it suspicious that Morinaga's candy was poisoned, while Glico's was only threatened to be. Now, of course, these two things put together, this causes a lot of concern and a lot of doubt, which I think is, it's pretty reasonable, I would say. However, the thing is that Glico's business was actually really deeply affected by the threats, despite not actually being poisoned with cyanide. More specifically, after the monster with 21 faces publicly threatened to poison the Glico candy, which of course prompted Glico products to be pulled from shelves, and that led to temporarily shutting down production and laying off 2/3 of their part-time employees. So really, they got the bitter end of the deal. They just, not only did they, lose a lot of sales, monetary, I was gonna say monetary value. I guess you could say that. They lost a lot of money opportunities, but the reputation was also damaged because shortly after this, it was a very difficult thing for the public to trust this company, because it's not just, this poor company that is being, extorted. It's not just that. It's like, how did you allow people to get into your company during your production process, and insert these candies, There's a really big distrust, and that, of course, affected the company overall. So, while I do think the things that people are concerned about have value to them, overall, there's just no evidence to support that. Because again, they don't really gain anything from this. This takes us to our second theory, and that is that the monster with 21 faces was someone seeking revenge on Japan's food companies. Now, here's a little bit of a history thing that happens with this theory. So, nearly 30 years before the group sent their first letter, around the mid-1950s, a stabilizing agent in Morinaga produced dry milk, which contained arsenic. By June 1956, over 12,000 infants had been injured and 138 had died. So, first and foremost, Morinaga did reach a settlement with the families of the affected infants, but a report from 1969 showed that the survivors continued to suffer related ailments. By the time the monster with 21 faces began its reign of terror, the victims of the dry milk incident would have been about 30 or so, around that age, and the theory would go on to say that perhaps they were ready to seek revenge on the company that made their early years so difficult. This theory, however, doesn't really account why the group targeted the entire industry instead of just targeting Morinaga, since that is where everything kind of came about, and the reason why they were hurt and why so many infants died and the people that were later affected in terms of illness, So, yeah, it's definitely a theory. There's some substance there, the motive. But again, it doesn't really explain the 31 other companies that were involved. So this takes us to our very last theory, if we can call it that. And it's about a man named Manabu Miyazaki. And the theory goes that he is somehow involved in all of this. Now, this takes us to November 1984. After the cyanide confection showed up, 100 million yen were set to be turned over to the criminals in Kyoto. Police surveillancing the drop-off spotted a suspicious fox-eyed man and gave chase. The suspect successfully evaded his capture. However, the police did manage to find the stolen car he had been driving, complete with a police scanner inside. This takes us to January 1985, where authorities released a sketch of this fox-eyed man, which would lead to the identification of Manabu Miyazaki. The sketch apparently bared so much resemblance to Miyazaki that his own mother believed it was him, which, side note, the mother was in fact from Osaka. Miyazaki is actually the son of a Yakuza boss and a well-known figure in organized crime and organized anti-police displays in college, and had already been arrested a couple times. So there's a record on this guy. Well, on the surface, it appeared that the police had finally made a break in the case. Charges were never brought against Miyazaki for the kidnapping and extortion. This was due to a rock-solid alibi and no hard evidence to tie him to the case. Interestingly enough, Miyazaki would go on to write a memoir detailing his life of crime. The book was released shortly after the statutes of limitation for the man with 21 faces expired. The cover was the police sketch that was released while trying to track Miyazaki down. Again, the whole fox-eyed man sketch. Yeah, that sketch. And although he confessed to other crimes in the book, Miyazaki never mentioned any involvement in the 21 Faces spree. If Miyazaki was on his way to pick up the extended or the extorted 100 million yen when the police gave chase, he did eventually get his money. The book went on to earn the known criminal over 100 million yen, over 741 million US dollars, essentially. So, where does that leave us? A dead end. And yeah, it really sucks that there is like no definitive answer. There's no true conclusion, motive, even end goal, because they didn't, like I said, they didn't get any of the money that they asked for. So it's like, why go through all of this, But at the end, sure, nobody was really hurt except for the employees that got laid off, and the properties that were lost. But damn, it feels like I'm tired, Yeah, like I said, this is not a satisfying ending. These theories sure have some substance, and maybe the reality is that maybe there's a little bit of everything, And I'm pretty sure I didn't cover all the theories, but I'm just I covered mainly the ones that are the most talked about. There are a couple other theories that talk about, of course, inside job in the police station, within the companies themselves, Glico, Morinaga, and some of the other companies, that were trying to be extorted. And like I said, there's no definitive conclusion. I think it's really still up to debate about what happened. I mean, I went on Reddit, same thing. Nobody's really for sure, but there's definitely some leads on there. Can't confirm nor deny. If you're curious, go look. If you're not, completely fine and valid. So this takes us to the very end of this episode, and I'm so sorry if you feel empty or just completely unsatisfied with the ending. I apologize, but at the same time I don't, because this is just something that happens. There isn't always an answer at the end, especially in crime. Even when things are solved, there's still so many remaining questions that should be answered, and yet they aren't. And this is one of those things, despite there being no answers at all. But yeah, it's something interesting worth thinking about, I think. And let me know what your favorite haichu flavors are, or Pocky flavors. Pocky is owned by Glico, so I'm not sure if I said that, but I take full responsibility if I didn't. So yeah, thank you for listening, and stay safe out there. Peace.